Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for April 5th, 2022. Well, yesterday we had a pretty nice little rally. It kind of got off to a slow start yesterday, but eventually big tech won the day as everyone started to surge back into those growth names, really pushing some of those stocks up substantially. What does that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain some information about how we may want to approach the market for today. Well, first off, as you can see, we've got a pretty good price support through here in the chart, holding on. And of course, we've broken that downtrend here as well. And I suggested yesterday what I'd really like to see is a little bit of consolidation here in the market. Now, we did rally up yesterday in the Dow, mostly led by big tech names, but notice we kind of held in that little range here in the diamonds. And this morning we're seeing just a little tiny pullback in here, so it's possible I may get a little bit of what I want, and that's a little bit of rest in here. However, we do have some things out there here today in the economic calendar that could move us around, so we'll want to take a look at that here in just a moment. So watching that closely, notice if I were to draw a trend line up here, that would suggest we still need another week or so of rest in this range. And if we could hold up here, I gotta say I would have to give that to the bulls. A hold in here would certainly show their willingness to defend and support the market despite the bond yield inversion and an aggressive Fed probably likely on the way. But they're holding in there pretty strongly. Let's take a look at the technicals in the chart. And technicals continue to show some nice improvement and a good opportunity for a hold. Notice right in here, 34 EMA, 20 simple moving average crossing up through the 50, providing a range of price support here in the chart. But we also have to realize that we have a pretty substantial range of price resistance above in this area that we're going to be challenged by. So kind of keep that in mind. We're kind of stuck between levels. We'll see which side actually wins the day here eventually. Let's take a look at our SPY now. SPY, very much the same, and it had a pretty good day yesterday. Little hammer, little follow through. This right here, this 3-candle pattern is a bullish morning star pattern. Now, what's important is that we follow through with that pattern. And notice once again, we held some price support here in the chart. So I got to give this up to the bulls. Now, if I draw that trend in here, that trend doesn't work very well. That would suggest we would have to consolidate for a month and a half or more. So we're going to have to use something else in here for that trend. And I will say that we continue to be a bit overbought in the short term here in the market. But big tech led the way here, and that certainly helped the SPY. You'll want to keep in mind that we have a pretty substantial zone of resistance right up in here. But at the same time, we have a pretty substantial zone of support right down through here. So keep a close eye on this. It really is going to depend on how we react to some of the news events and things out there. We have a light week really on news, but today we're going to get a lot of Fed speak out there that could shake things up just a little bit if those Fed members start to talk hawkish. So watch that closely. Once again, those technicals improving here. Notice our 34 EMA and the 20 back up through the 50. We're holding above that 200-day. I don't think we really turn into a major problem here in the SPY unless we start to break back down through those levels. That's where we would have some problems in the market. But I would expect even if we do push down there, there should at least be a hold or a pause right in here around that 50. Let's take a look at our QQQ. Now, NASDAQ was where all the action was yesterday. And again, bit of a Morningstar pattern in here. That Morningstar pattern is right off of a little price support in the chart. Now, keeping in mind, although we have that price support that we're showing in the chart, we still have a massive level of price resistance above here in this chart, as you can see. Though we could still rise a little bit more before we contact that level, we do have a little intermediate level of price resistance right in there that we'll want to keep an eye on. And we are also showing just that little teeny tiny hint of a pullback here this morning as those bond rates continue their inversion and warning of potential recession in the future here. So watch that closely. Once again, those technicals showing improvement, 34 EMA, 20 EMA, up through that 50-day moving average. We're still being challenged by that 50-day or 200-day moving average in here. So we'll want to watch that. If we were to get a rejection up there, that would kind of be a double rejection at that point. That could be problematic and signal a test of the 50 down here, but we want to watch close. Then let's take a look at our Russell, or IWM. Well, it just kind of danced around here yesterday, staying in a relatively tight consolidation. And as you can see, we've got a little resistance right in there. We got a little support right in there. And then up above here, we have a freakishly massive resistance that's nearly a year long. That would be a tremendous challenge for any stock to push through. We'll need something special to get that going. And once again here, if we take a look at maybe some trend, I didn't draw that very well, but take a look at some trend right up through here, we may still be due some consolidating rest here in the Russell, so watch that close. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX had a nice little pullback yesterday, and once again, we're continuing to show that fear dropping out of the market. But I got to tell you, with some of the with the bond yield inversion, with the Fed going to be moving aggressively here soon, with a lot of those internal numbers not showing a lot of strength, you got to wonder here if we're starting to show a little bit of complacency. And so keep an eye on that as we continue to push back in this chart. We drop below that 20 handle, and that is bullish. That's going to provide a resistance level if we do find some fear and push back up. But so far, we're holding in this pattern here nicely and continuing to sink. But I will, with some of these indicators out here not being so bullish, it makes me wonder if we're becoming a little bit complacent here. So watch that closely. If fear were to spike up, I'm afraid we could move pretty quickly. So just kind of make sure that you have a good plan in place. And I said this yesterday, and I'm going to say this again. If you've been losing consistently in the market, it has been challenging. It has been choppy. Please back away. Stand aside a little bit. Find out what's going on in your trading. Study what's going on in your trading, and then come back with a better frame of mind, because let's not keep losing money. And I've been working with a lot of folks that have been struggling with that recently. So this volatility has certainly been challenging, and I kind of expect another dose of volatility, if not this week, next week, to really crank things up here. So watch carefully. And then let's take a look at our T2122. Now this one still gives me a little concern. Got a little heartburn on this one, and that is that T2122 pushing back up here toward that bearish reversal zone, and a little bit of that oversold, or excuse me, overbought condition here in the market. I didn't mean to move that. That should be right there at 100. So watch that closely as we continue to push this back up. We're pressing into that resistance area of the chart of T2122, so we'll want to watch that carefully. Keep in mind, we had a similar pattern that occurred right over here. Notice we kind of double topped right in here, had a pretty nice pullback, seesawed right back up before we came down. So watch that carefully, that possibility that we're stretching this rubber band a little bit too tightly, and those bears could come in if they can find some inspiration. So watch that closely. Let's take a look at our T21 T2108. Now, T2108, nice little improvement yesterday, pushing up. And I have been mentioning this. I've got to give this one to the bulls because they continue to hold higher prices here on the number of stocks above their 40-day moving average. I will say that I think we might have overextended in the short term, which would either require a pullback or more of a consolidation, which I'm kind of hoping for is the consolidation. So watch that carefully in here as we continue to challenge this upside area. And we'll also want to watch some of these price support levels. If we get some selling and we start breaking that back down through those levels in the chart. T2107. Very much the same thing. Little pullback yesterday. It wasn't the improvement that we were hoping for. And this is just one of those signals out there showing that even though we had a nice little bullish rally, a lot of the sectors were very subdued. A lot of stocks very subdued yesterday. It was just tech-led mostly. And a lot of stocks were just kind of drifting along sideways. And we can see that here in T2107 as we pulled back here just a little bit on T2107. But having said that, we still have some pretty good support levels in that price action here that could hold us, so we'll want to watch that. If we can get inspired by the bulls, we could pop through there and hold, and that may change everything here in the market. But if those bears were to be inspired and we reject this area once again, that could be problematic, so watch that close. T2101 continues. We continue with this relative low volume as we rally, so I'm not really sure we're getting some great information out of this. It's kind of hard to find momentum when we're not getting much follow through. If you guys have been trading long, you've probably been experiencing that. We'll get one day moving in one direction and then we just can't seem to follow through and we end up pulling back. So momentum has been struggling here in the market, and we can kind of see that in T2101. Let's take a look at our economic calendar for today. And what I was talking about earlier is we have just a little bit to be paying attention to on that calendar today. We've got international trading goods. Now, what's interesting, you notice that that's marked in red. Red on the chart says it's a market mover. It can really move the market around. But what's been interesting is those trade deficits continue to widen, to get worse. We continue to set records in those trade deficits. And the market doesn't care. We just don't care that our trade deficits are way out of whack here in the United States. But perhaps we continue to ignore today as well. So watch that closely. And then notice we have some Fed speakers in here. Now, those Fed speakers could be interesting. And the reason I say they could be interesting, if they start talking a little bit more hawkish, and if Brainerd continues to press for even more than a 50 basis point increase, as they've kind of talked before, then we could see some volatility around that Fed speak if they start sounding more aggressive. And then keep in mind, I forgot to mention right in here, we've got the ISM services, probably not going to move the market around much at all. As you plan forward, remember we've got those FOMC minutes coming on Wednesday, and it's not odd that the market just kind of goes sideways and takes a break and consolidates a little bit as we wait for that data. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar today. Now, our earnings calendar, we've got about 30 companies on the calendar, but a lot of those are not confirmed report. So I came up with a few notables here today. AYI reporting, you might want to keep an eye on that. It's trying to perk up here this morning. ARRY will also be reporting. I really like this pattern in here on this chart. Nice little rising pattern holding some support. This could be a critical earnings report to see whether or not we're going to break on higher or turn around and break down. So watch that closely. As you guys know, I've been talking about solar stocks and those alternative energies. We're seeing Brent crude rising again this morning, so it is possible we could see a little inspiration there. Let's take a look at LNDC. LNDC reporting today. We've got LNN. We've got NG and then we'll get a report from SGH. Now, a lot of these, as you can see, rather small caps, not particularly notable, but yeah, obviously if you're holding them, it is important. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. But before we do that, guys, if you could do me that quick favor, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button on YouTube if this is the first time you've seen these videos, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. If you find these videos to be useful, to be helpful to your trading day, if you could please do me that favor and also click that subscribe button, or click that thumbs up button and leave a brief comment. You guys are awesome. I truly appreciate all of the support of the channel, the good comments. Thank you so much, everyone. You guys are awesome. And then let's take a second here, and for those folks that continue to support the channel through Buy Me a Coffee, you guys, I can't even express my gratitude for that. You guys are fantastic, and you've made it possible for me to start doing some of these live YouTube events, and there'll be one coming this week. Just watch for that potential schedule. Let's take a look at some stocks setting up, and please keep in mind, guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. As a matter of fact, you better do your own due diligence and make sure you understand the risks of these trades and that you are planning very carefully. We have a volatile market. It is a challenging market, so make sure you understand the risk of every trade that you consider. First off, let's take a look at Plug. As you guys know, I've been talking about Plug here for a while, and I continue to hold Plug. I've been in this trade for a while, and boy, we got a nice surge yesterday to the upside here in Plug Power. So again, some of those alternative energies maybe perking up just a little bit. So let's keep an eye on this. Let's watch this for any kind of consolidation, rest, or pullback, and I would suspect it does have that possibility that it could continue to push on higher, but I would expect such a big move on the day. Some kind of a rest, consolidation, or pullback is due in that chart, but watch for that next opportunity in Plug. It's looking pretty darn good. You might want to also take a look at if you have any inclination toward those cannabis stocks. Take a look at like CGC trying to hold a little bit of a higher low. Now, keep in mind, these are still coming out of this downtrend, but we're holding that little higher low in here, showing some of that bullishness. And this happens to be one of those patterns that really plays out bullishly most of the time. And that's what we call a rounded bottom breakout pattern, where we hold this support in here. And I got to tell you, if you jump over to the Hit and Run Candlesticks website, guys, my good friend and the guy who put together the rounded bottom breakout pattern, Rick Sadler, with all of the rules, all of the guidelines, he will be teaching a class on that soon. So jump over there to the website and see if that's of interest to you. Now watch this carefully in here. The ultimate target is up here around the 200-day moving average on these. So watch that. If we can hold this support and start moving to the upside here in some of these cannabis stocks. You'd also take a look at Cronos. It's holding that pattern, had a nice little bullish perk up yesterday, and that possibility it could start moving up. TLRY might be another one that you want to keep an eye on, holding that higher low, that opportunity that could move on through to the upside. So keep an eye on a few of those. Of course, a place we have to look because of the bullishness that we saw yesterday in tech is looking at some of those big techs. Apple, very nice little Morningstar pattern here on that chart where we held this price support, held the downtrend. You'll want to keep an eye on this price resistance, however, if we can push through there. I got to tell you, some of these stocks, considering the condition of the consumer right now, pretty remarkable how we continue to push to the upside. But watch that. I think there is that opportunity that might push right on through. And then, you know, of course, Microsoft, holding it a very nice pattern, trying to break back up through some resistance, a good Morningstar pattern here in that hold, so watch that closely. I've been seeing lots of conversation about AMD, how AMD is going to be the greatest thing going in this market ahead, but Boy, just not yet for me. As you can see, we're trying to hold this downtrend as some support, and we've got a little teeny tiny bit of price support right in there on that chart. But let's keep in mind, we have a fairly significant level of price resistance above, so we could pop up in here in AMD and then just continue to turn right back around. So I'm going to need to see AMD kind of push through and hold some support up here, and then I might look for that upside in the chart. Let's take a look at some of the pay systems. Now, I have a little bit of a bias on this one, guys. I picked up SQ yesterday, probably a little bit early on this buy, but watch that closely. SQ starting to hold up in that pattern, looking pretty good and strong. Take a look at PayPal. PayPal is also in that same kind of pattern, looking bullish. Might want to keep an eye on those charts. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it, and we'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Take care, everyone.